6 months into a long-distance relationship, I thought I had it all figured out. Lauren was thriving in Baltimore. I was building my design empire in New York, and we were making it work. Then my grandmother decided it was time for the next chapter. She called me on a random Tuesday and said, "Eleanor, I'm planning your wedding. I hadn't even proposed yet. But here's the thing. By the end of this story, I realized she might have been right all along." Again. Before continuing, I want to make a special request. If you are a kind person, help us make this dream come true. Reach 1,000 subscribers. Subscribe to the channel. Leave also a comment telling me which city you're watching from, so I know how far this beautiful story is reaching. January 2027 arrived with the kind of brutal cold that makes you question all your life choices. Lauren had been in Baltimore for exactly 3 weeks, and I was learning that long-distance relationships are nothing like the movies. They're harder, lonelier, more complicated than anyone tells you. I was sitting in my apartment on January 15th, staring at my laptop screen at 11 p.m., waiting for Lauren to finish her shift at Johns Hopkins. Picasso was sprawled across my lap, completely unbothered by my anxiety. The video call finally connected, and Lauren appeared on screen looking exhausted, her hair in a messy bun, wearing scrubs with coffee stains on them. "Hey, beautiful," she said, and even through the screen, I could see the exhaustion in her eyes. "Rough day?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "The worst. We lost a patient this morning. A woman, 56 years old, came in with a massive MI. We did everything we could, but..." She trailed off, rubbing her face. "Sorry. I don't mean to dump this on you. Lauren, you can always dump on me. That's what I'm here for." But even as I said it, I felt the weight of the distance between us. I couldn't hold her. I couldn't make her tea or sit with her in silence or do any of the things that actually help when someone's hurting. I could only sit in my apartment in New York and watch her suffer through a screen. We talked for another hour, but the conversation felt strained. By the time we said goodnight, I felt more disconnected from her than I had since we'd started dating. I lay in bed that night, unable to sleep, wondering if we'd made a terrible mistake. The next morning, my phone rang at 7 a.m. My grandmother, of course. "Eleanor, I'm coming to New York this weekend. I need to talk to you about something important." "Grandma, it's 7 in the morning." "Yes, and I'm 84 years old. I don't have time to waste on sleeping in. I'll be there Saturday. Make dinner reservations somewhere nice." She hung up before I could protest. I texted Lauren. "My grandmother is coming to town and being mysterious. I'm scared." Lauren's response came back immediately. "Your grandmother is always mysterious. That's her brand. Embrace it." But I couldn't embrace it. I had a bad feeling about this. Saturday arrived gray and cold, the kind of January day that makes New York feel like the end of the world. My grandmother showed up at my apartment at noon, wearing a red coat and carrying a leather portfolio that looked important. She settled herself on my couch like she owned the place, which, knowing her, she probably felt like she did. "Eleanor, we need to talk about your future," she announced without preamble. "My future? Grandma, I'm doing fine. Business is good. Lauren and I are..." "You're miserable," she interrupted. "I can see it in your face. You're trying to make long distance work, but it's not working, is it?" I wanted to lie. I wanted to tell her everything was perfect. But this was my grandmother, the woman who'd orchestrated my entire love story. She deserved honesty. "It's hard," I admitted. "I miss her. I miss being able to just be with her." Betty opened her portfolio and pulled out a stack of papers. "Then we're going to fix it." "What is this?" I asked, looking at the documents. This is a plan. I've been thinking about this since Lauren moved. You have a successful business, yes? A business that could operate from anywhere? Technically, yes, but... And Lauren has a 2-year contract in Baltimore. But that doesn't mean you have to stay in New York for 2 years, does it? I stared at her. Are you suggesting I move to Baltimore? I'm suggesting you think about it. You could keep your clients, work remotely most of the time, and be with your girlfriend. You could build a life together instead of just maintaining one long distance. That's insane, I said. But even as I said it, I was thinking about it. Is it? Or is it the most sensible thing anyone's suggested to you in months? She had a point. She always had a point. That evening I called Lauren. I didn't tell her about my grandmother's visit. Instead, I asked her about Baltimore, about what she loved about it, about whether she could see me there. Of course I can see you here, she said softly. I see you here every single day in my head. But Eleanor, I can't ask you to give up your life. What if I didn't have to give it up? What if I just relocated it? There was a long pause. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying I'm thinking about it. I'm saying my grandmother came to town and somehow made me realize that I'd rather be with you and struggle than be comfortable without you. Your grandmother is a genius, Lauren said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. By February 1st, I'd made a decision. I was going to spend a month in Baltimore, a trial run. I'd work from Lauren's apartment, see if the city felt like home, and figure out if this was actually viable or just a romantic fantasy. Lauren picked me up from BWI Airport on a cold Friday afternoon, and the moment I saw her standing there in person, not through a screen, but actually physically there, I knew I'd made the right choice. She pulled me into her arms, and I breathed in the familiar scent of her perfume mixed with the Baltimore winter air. Hi, she whispered into my hair. Hi yourself, I whispered back. Her apartment was in Canton, a neighborhood near the harbor with brick row houses and tree-lined streets. It was smaller than my Manhattan place, but it had character. It had windows that looked out onto the street, and it smelled like Lauren, vanilla and coffee and home. The first week was perfect. We fell into a rhythm. I'd work in the morning while Lauren was at the hospital, and in the afternoon we'd explore the city together. We went to the National Aquarium, walked along the harbor, found a coffee shop that became our spot. We cooked dinner together, something we'd rarely been able to do during the long-distance phase. We just existed together. But by the second week, reality started to set in. I missed my clients. I missed my office. I missed the energy of New York. And more importantly, I realized that Baltimore was Lauren's city, not mine. I was visiting. I wasn't living. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, Lauren took me to a fancy restaurant overlooking the harbor. We ordered expensive wine and even more expensive food, and we talked about the future. I can feel you pulling away, Lauren said gently, reaching across the table to take my hand. I'm not pulling away. I'm just realistic. I can't move here, Lauren. My business is in New York. My clients are in New York. My life is in New York. I know, she said. And I wouldn't ask you to give that up. But Eleanor, I need to know if we're going to make it. Because if we're not, I need to know now. I can't keep doing this half-in, half-out thing. I felt panic rise in my chest. Are you breaking up with me? No. I'm asking you if you're breaking up with me, because that's what it feels like you're already gone. I'm not gone. I'm right here. Physically, yes, but emotionally? I don't know. Ever since you got here, it's like you've been waiting to leave. She was right. I had been waiting to leave, because leaving was easier than staying and admitting that I didn't know how to make this work. We sat in silence for a long moment, the sounds of the restaurant swirling around us. Then I did something I'd been afraid to do. "Marry me," I said. Lauren stared at me. "What?" "Marry me. Not right now. Not next month. But eventually. Marry me, and we'll figure out the rest. We'll figure out where to live, how to make it work, all of it. But I need you to know that I'm not going anywhere. I'm committed to this. To us. Eleanor, you can't just propose because you're scared of losing me. I'm not proposing because I'm scared. I'm proposing because I'm sure. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. You make me better. You make me braver. You make me want to build a life, not just live one." Lauren's eyes filled with tears. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." We didn't have a ring. We didn't have a plan. But we had each other, and in that moment that felt like enough. I called my grandmother the next morning. I should have known better. "Grandma, I have news. Lauren and I are engaged." There was a pause. Then, "Finally. I've been waiting for you to propose for months." "How did you know I was going to propose?" "Eleanor, I set you up on a blind date. I orchestrated your entire relationship. You think I didn't know you'd propose in Baltimore on Valentine's Day? I'm 84 years old. I've seen every romantic movie ever made." "You're unbelievable," I said, but I was laughing. "I'm also very busy. When's the wedding?" "We literally just got engaged yesterday, Grandma." "Yes, and weddings take time." "I'm thinking June. June is beautiful. We could do it in New York, or maybe somewhere neutral." "Have you thought about where?" "No, because we've been engaged for approximately 12 hours. Well, start thinking. I'm going to call your mother and Lauren's mother, and we're going to have a planning meeting. Next Saturday. Your place. Bring Lauren." She hung up. Just like that. My grandmother had taken over my engagement before I'd even told most of my friends. The planning meeting was chaos. My mother, Susan, arrived with a binder full of wedding inspiration. Lauren's mother, Patricia, brought fabric swatches and a color palette she'd apparently been working on for months. My grandmother showed up with a list of venues, caterers, and photographers, all of whom she apparently knew personally. "Wait," I said, holding up my hands. "How do you know all these people?" "Eleanor, I've been planning your wedding since you were born. I knew you'd eventually find someone worth marrying. I was prepared." Lauren, sitting next to me on the couch, squeezed my hand and whispered, "Your grandmother is incredible." "She's terrifying," I whispered back. But as the afternoon went on, I realized something. My grandmother wasn't trying to take over. She was trying to help. She was trying to make my wedding day special because she loved me. And maybe, just maybe, she knew what she was doing. By the end of the meeting, we'd narrowed it down to 3 venues: a garden in Central Park, a historic mansion in the Hudson Valley, and a boutique hotel in Brooklyn with a rooftop overlooking Manhattan. We'd picked a date, June 15th, 2027, and we'd started assembling a guest list. As my mother and Patricia were leaving, my mother pulled me aside. "Your grandmother is right about one thing," she said. "You look happy, truly happy. I haven't seen you like this since you were a little girl." "I am happy," I said. "I'm terrified, but I'm happy." "That's what love is," my mother said, kissing my forehead. "Terror and happiness all mixed together." March arrived with the kind of spring weather that makes you believe in new beginnings. Lauren and I had started seriously planning the wedding, which meant a lot of late-night conversations about flowers and music and whether we wanted a sit-down dinner or a cocktail reception. But there was a problem we hadn't solved yet. Where were we going to live? Lauren's contract in Baltimore was for 2 years, but that didn't mean we had to stay in Baltimore. I could move anywhere and keep my business, but the question was, where did we want to build our life? We were sitting on the rooftop of Lauren's apartment building on March 20th, watching the sunset over Baltimore, when Lauren brought it up. "I've been thinking," she said. "What if we didn't choose? What if we did both?" "Both what?" "Both cities. What if we got a place in New York for when I'm not working, and we stayed in Baltimore when I am? We could split our time." "That's insane," I said. "That's expensive and complicated and it's the only way I can think of to make this work without one of us sacrificing everything." I thought about it. It actually made sense. I could keep my clients in New York, but I could also build a life in Baltimore. Lauren could pursue her research, but we could still have a home base in New York. "Okay," I said. "Let's do it. Let's do both." "Yeah?" "Yeah, but we're not telling my grandmother until we've found a place. She'll take over the entire process." Lauren laughed. "Too late. She already texted me 3 listings in Brooklyn." Of course she had. By early April, we'd found a place. A small brownstone in Park Slope with exposed brick and a backyard where Picasso could sit and judge the neighborhood. It needed work, but it had potential. It had character. It felt like home. The day we signed the papers, I realized something. A year ago, I was a woman who didn't believe in love. A woman who thought relationships were complications to be avoided. And now I was buying a house with someone I'd met on a blind date orchestrated by my grandmother. Life is weird and wonderful and completely unpredictable. June 15th, 2027 arrived with perfect weather. 72 degrees, sunny, with just a hint of breeze. My grandmother had somehow managed to order the weather, which didn't surprise me at all. The ceremony was at the Brooklyn Botanic Garden, in a garden surrounded by roses and wisteria. I wore a simple white dress that my mother had helped me pick out, and I carried a bouquet of peonies and eucalyptus. As I walked down the aisle, I saw Lauren standing at the altar in a tailored navy suit, tears streaming down her face. My grandmother was in the front row, also crying, also looking incredibly smug about the fact that she'd orchestrated this entire moment. When the officiant asked if anyone objected to the union, my grandmother stood up. "I don't object," she announced. "I orchestrated this. You're welcome." The entire garden erupted in laughter. Even the officiant was laughing. Lauren and I exchanged vows that we'd written ourselves. I told her that she'd changed my life, that she'd made me believe in love, that I couldn't wait to spend the rest of my life with her. She told me that I was her home, that I made her brave, that she loved me more than she'd ever thought possible. When we kissed, the garden erupted in cheers. The reception was at the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens Pavilion, with string lights and long tables covered in white linens. We danced to a song by Fleetwood Mac, Landslide, because it was our song, the one that had been playing the first time Lauren told me she loved me. At one point during the reception, my grandmother pulled me aside. "I'm proud of you," she said, taking my hands. "I'm proud of the woman you've become, and I'm proud that I had a small part in bringing you and Lauren together." "A small part?" I laughed. "Grandma, you orchestrated the entire thing." "Yes, well, I'm humble about my accomplishments," she said with a wink. "But Eleanor, I want you to know something. The best thing about getting older is watching the people you love find happiness. Watching you and Lauren together, seeing how much you love each other, that's my greatest joy." I hugged her, and I realized that my grandmother wasn't just a meddling matchmaker. She was a romantic. She was someone who believed in love so deeply that she was willing to risk embarrassment and rejection to help others find it. As the night went on, I found myself standing on the edge of the dance floor, watching Lauren dance with her father. She was laughing, completely unself-conscious, completely happy. And I thought about how a year ago, I would have said that love was a complication, that relationships were things to be avoided. But I'd been wrong. Love wasn't a complication. Love was the whole point. Love was what made life worth living. Later that night, as we were leaving the reception, my grandmother handed me an envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it later," she said. "But I want you to know that I'm giving you and Lauren the deed to a house. A little cottage in the Hamptons. Somewhere for you to escape to when life gets too complicated." "Grandma, you can't." "I can, and I did. Don't argue with an old woman on her granddaughter's wedding day." I opened the envelope later that night, in our hotel room, with Lauren beside me. Inside was the deed to a beautiful cottage on the water, along with a note in my grandmother's handwriting. "Dear Eleanor and Lauren, when I set you up on that blind date, I knew you were perfect for each other. But I didn't know that you would teach me something about love that I'd forgotten. I'd spent so many years trying to control outcomes, trying to orchestrate happiness, that I'd forgotten that the best love stories are the ones where people choose each other, over and over again, even when it's hard. You two chose each other. You chose each other when it was complicated. You chose each other when it would have been easier to walk away. That's real love. That's the kind of love that lasts. This cottage is my gift to you. A place where you can remember that you chose each other, and where you can keep choosing each other for the rest of your lives. I love you both so much. Your meddling grandmother, Betty." I cried. Actually cried. And Lauren held me, and we sat there in the darkness, and we talked about the future, about the life we were building together, about how my grandmother had been right all along. Thank you so much for staying with Eleanor and Lauren's story all the way to the end. I hope their journey reminded you that sometimes the people who meddle in our lives do it because they love us. Sometimes the best things come from unexpected places, and sometimes the person you're meant to be with is just waiting for you to be brave enough to say yes. The lesson here is simple. Don't be afraid to let people help you. Don't be afraid to take chances on love, even when it's messy and complicated. And don't underestimate the power of a grandmother who believes in you. If you loved this story, please subscribe to our channel. Your support means everything and helps us continue bringing these beautiful, real, human stories to your life. Leave a comment below telling me which city you're watching from. I'd love to know how far this story has traveled. May you all find love that's brave, honest, and true. May you find people who believe in you before you believe in yourself. And may you always remember that the best love stories are the ones where people choose each other, over and over again. Thank you for being here. God bless you all.